Hi, everybody. Officially welcome. And thank you for attending the Food Co-op's virtual annual general meeting. I'm Judy Jennings, the board president. I've been on the board since actually like maybe a year after I moved to Port Townsend, which was 8 years ago. And I've been here since. So I'm going to start with a few technology tips before getting started. The best way to watch this meeting will be in speaker view. There's a little grid of dots on the top right of the Zoom window. I think it says view. And click that, choose side-by-side speaker from the menu. We ask that you keep yourself muted during the meeting, but you can have your own camera on or off as you prefer. This meeting is being recorded. If you haven't yet, please change your display name on Zoom so we know who all's here. If you have a question you'd like to ask the board or the GM, please type it into the chat. We'll prioritize answering questions that are relevant to the business and financial topics we'll cover today, but feel free to ask any other questions in the chat too, and we'll get back to you another time if we don't get to it today. If you have audio or connection problems, try logging out of Zoom and then logging back in. Alternatively, you can call in on your phone for the audio portion or only. Co-op staff will not be able to provide technical assistance, so if you do need additional help, please refer to the Zoom website. Now on with the meeting. I'd like to call to order the annual general meeting of the Food Co-op Port Townsend at 6:35 p.m. on June 27th, 2023. Again, I'm Judy Jennings, president of the board, and I'd like to welcome our board members, staff, member owners, and community. The Food Co-op is guided by our mission of working together to nourish our community and our 7 values, which are inclusion, respect, participation, integrity, stewardship, resilience, and love. Here's the agenda for today. The theme of the annual meeting this year is strengthening community. As we recover from the last several years of swimming the torrents of the pandemic, I see this year as an opportune time to examine what we really want to see in our county, a time to sort through what's working and what's not, and to focus on strengthening our community ties and relationships. I'll begin by reviewing the work your co-op board of directors accomplished in 2022 and our plans for 2023. Then, General Manager Kenna Eaton will talk about our store infrastructure, improvements, the aftermath of COVID, work in supporting our farmers, and our financial results. Then, I'll return and join Kenna to answer your questions. Some of you already asked questions when you registered for the meeting, and as I mentioned before, you can also use the chat function in Zoom to ask questions during the meeting. Today also marks the opening of the annual election for the Food Co-op Board of Directors. After the annual meeting is over, we'll take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for some conversations with this year's board candidates. Finally, at the end of the meeting, we'll have a brief poll to learn what you think about this meeting, and then we'll pick one lucky attendee to win a basket full of many of our local products. This is the picture of what it looks like. It's really good. You have to be present to win, so be sure to stick around till the end. Here's your Food Co-op Board of Directors. I'm Judy Jennings, and Michael Flowers is our vice president. Owen Rowe is our board treasurer, and Lisa Barclay is our secretary. Dave Dunn, who you may also know as the front end manager at the store, and Claire Thomas. A small but mighty team of 6. Lisa Barkley actually completed her elected term in 2020, but has stayed around for us as a non-voting emeritus member to continue to support the board's work, as recruiting has been especially hard in these pandemic times where we have mostly been meeting virtually. And she had extended her stay with us for another year. I'd like to say my special thanks to her for continuing to support us in every way imaginable. I'd also like to thank Sharon Downhire, our board assistant, who can pretty much read my mind now and does so much work behind the scenes to keep things moving forward smoothly. I also want to acknowledge Owen Rowe, who initially invited to be on the board 7 years ago. Without him, I would have never considered to be on the board. And the board would like to give special kudos to Kenna, our general manager, and all of our staff who worked continuously throughout these turbulent years under adverse conditions as the country grappled with the COVID-19 pandemic, socio-political divisiveness, and the housing crisis, which directly correlates to difficulty in hiring. They deserve our sincere thank you in doing everything possible to keep the co-op doors open for our member owners and shoppers. And to our member owners and shoppers, thank you so much for your ongoing patronage. It was a huge adjustment for all of us, and we couldn't have done it without your support. Board accomplishments. We did a lot in 2022. In addition to the board's monthly business meetings and regular business, such as monitoring reports from the general manager, fulfilling our fiscal responsibilities, we also engaged in several strategic projects in 2022. Our forefront project has been working on renewing our ends. I want to start by talking a little bit about what ends are, because although it is a common word in policy governance, it is a bit unusual. Ends are essentially statements that describe why the co-op exists, what it strives to be, and what we hope to accomplish within 5 to 10 years. A good end encompasses who the end serves and how they will benefit, and it establishes priorities considering our existing resources. We have been working on revising our ends for 2 years now. We started by gathering input from our stakeholders, including farmers and the farmers market, the food co-op managers, and the member owners. I had a slide about the farmers, but it seems like it's not here anymore. But I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. A glimpse of the takeaways from our discussion with our local farmers. They all expressed that with the increasing costs of supplies and labor, their profit margins are getting tighter and tighter. So if we all think that having a local food system is important, we have to be ready to pay a little bit more for these goods that provide our sustenance and resilience. Oops. So to sum up our work that we did in 22 for revising the co-op's ends and strategic plans, we kicked off the process, and we made a strategic planning committee. And then the next step is to have the board approve the ends, and then it'll be used by the general manager. Because of this commitment to hearing from as many folks as possible about what matters to them and how we can improve our impact, we are still in the process of revising the ends, and we're taking as much time as we need for it. And working on it for 2 years, it seems like these conversations themselves perhaps validate the existence of our ends, the ideas and ideals that it sparks about what we do and why we do it. The next thing we worked on is committees. we consolidated into new committees. In early 2021, the board established a DEI committee to help us as we educated ourselves. And DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The committee led study and engagement sessions for the board, where we engaged in discussions guided by books written by a variety of authors. We also had discussion sessions looking at our strategic plan through a DEI lens. After 2 years of this, we decided that the DEI work needs to be in all of our committees, not this other separate department, but integral to all of the work that we do. So we now each have committee chairs that has adjusted their charter to make sure we aren't leaving out a conversation that needs to happen whenever we make decisions. So for example, the governance committee is now better equipped to keep a DEI perspective in mind when revising the policies. So right now we have the board service committee, the governance committee, and community engagement. And we always invite member owners to be in these committees too. So if you're interested, please email us at coopboard@foodcoop.coop. And we also worked on the general manager evaluation and compensation process. After months of research and discussion led by Owen, the board established a better system to evaluate and compensate the general manager. This was our first year through with our new process, and we think it went really well. A major change was that we separated the GM compensation decision from the evaluation because the evaluation is based on the GM's monthly reports to the board, while the compensation is based on the GM's responsibility. Last, but certainly not the least, with a huge help from our co-op staff and Danny Milholland and his Production Alliance team, the co-op celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2022, with an estimate of 1,000 people showing up to the event despite the chilly weather that day. It definitely showed us how much our members appreciated the co-op, and we were all so very proud to play a part of it. Here's, I think it's a minute video, but I wanted to show it because it's really fun.
Because it brings people together, farmers, shoppers, and neighbors alike. Community!
The food co-op means a lot to me because I buy lots of food there and it's very organic.
I can go to the co-op on my bicycle and get my bicycle banana.
I'm glad to be here and celebrate a wonderful occasion.
Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay. I love the girl saying very organic. And yes, here is all of our amazing local vendors that collaborated and collaborate with us. And last year, with the 50th anniversary, they made these special products for the co-op. And so we had those in the store. And I think some of them are maybe still like around. And annual report. So also, yes, please don't forget to grab a copy of this year's annual report which is in this co-op newsletter around the table in the store. I think it probably went out a couple of days ago, and also available on our website at foodcoop.coop. With there, I'd like to turn it over to General Manager Kenna Eaton for the business and financial portion of the meeting. As an introduction, let me just say how grateful the board has been and continues to be for Kenna's steady leadership during these very challenging times. And I'm going to stop sharing.
All right, is that working? Can you see the screen? Great. Well, thanks everybody for being here tonight, and thank you, Julie, for all that information. And it was a difficult year and a super fun year. I mean, such a dynamic, you know, there was so much going on, and yet in the midst of that, we got to celebrate 50 years of nourishing our community, and that's totally amazing. So kudos to all of us. Well, you guys already know all this, that we're owned by our members who elect the board of directors, who are responsible for hiring and supervising the general manager, which is me. I've been here since 2011, and of course, as many of you know, I spent 30 years before that working at the Moscow Food Co-op. But I have to give a great shout out to this board of directors. They are the best. And I don't say that lightly. After 40 years of working with a wide variety of board members, all volunteers, many of whose hearts were in the right places, but often made work harder for us rather than allowing us to work together to make a difference. And this board has just been amazing. So thank you to my board of directors. I'm really excited to have some new folks join us and some new voices at the table. And I'm really looking forward to what we're going to accomplish together in the next few years. So again, this is time for us to look back at what we did in 2022, part of our commitment to our members that we'll have this annual meeting every year. And I'll be covering a little bit, as Julie mentioned, about how we wrapped up the COVID, the work that we've been doing in the store, and how we established a Farmers Fund. And I'm really excited to share more of that with you. So the pandemic has caused a lot of ripple effects in our industry. And you see it everywhere. It's not just the groceries and it's not just the natural foods. It's happening throughout the industry. Every time you want something, you hear a story about how it's not available, or it's not available right now, or it's gone. It's changing every single moment. And the ripple effects in our industry have really changed what's available to us in the store. Even if we think we can get it, we don't always get it. And then, of course, the price increases, and everybody's been noticing those. That's all the way down the chain from top to bottom, or bottom to top, depending how you look at it. So what has actually been going on, and it's not just business owners know this. I'll give a true confession, which is that I actually made this presentation to the Chamber of Commerce last week. But everybody knows this. Everything has increased. And when the cost of goods go up, which is what we pay for the product, we have to pass those prices on to our shoppers. So not only that, our cost of operations have increased, from supplies to utilities, the repairs, the labor. It doesn't matter where we look. It's happening all the time, every service. And so it is, as Julia mentioned, it's sort of another piece of having to evaluate how can we be sustainable as a business and really make a difference in our community, because ultimately that's what we're here for. We really want to be instrumental in having a strong, vibrant local food system here in our community. Oh, I'm going to go back just for a second, not quite ready to talk about that. Just talking a little bit more about what has the co-op done in the face of all of this. One thing we've done is we've been working with the other co-ops in the country through the National Cooperative Grocers just called that. Used to be association. I always want to throw it on the end. But basically, it's a co-op of co-ops. And by working with them, we've been able to bring in a lot more of what we're calling co-op basics. These are not fancy foods, but they are organic. They're your kitchen pantry basics, and they're at the lowest price we can possibly go. Really designed to compete with other private labels that you might find at other grocery stores. We've been bringing a lot more co-op deals and a lot of what we call, they're called BOGOs for short, buy one, get one free. This month it was olive oil. I mean, who doesn't need olive oil? And you buy one, you get one free. There's not much better deal than that out there. We've added Wellness Wednesdays for our members, where once a month you can get 15% off all wellness items. We've also been working with SNAP to provide extra produce dollars for our community members who use EBT, used to be called food stamps. And right now we're offering $10 worth of free produce when they shop at the food co-op. And we've focused behind the scenes on streamlining our operations. Really not out on the floor where you see people, but back behind us. You know, how many pieces of paper do we shuffle? Can we shuffle less paper? What can we do to make it more efficient behind the scenes so that we can continue offering all the services that we do and pay our staff good wages and great benefits? So using technology, reallocating resources, just managing our money better, and sometimes about managing people. For instance, when you choose to work at the food co-op, the first thing you're going to do is apply online, and a lot of it will be online all the way right up until we welcome you at the store. But that's taken away a lot of the extra work that was required in bringing on new employees. And it's another way we can help save money at the food co-op without affecting the shopper experience. So the expansion was amazing and wonderful. And we've already outgrown the expansion. In some places, we've had to go back and finish doing some work that we hadn't done during the expansion, such as lights in the produce department. Our administrative building has required some repairs. We brought in new check stands and new shopping carts. This year, we're also resealing and restriping the parking lot. As you didn't know, heads up, the store will be closed on August 8th, all day, while we get this work done. It takes a huge effort, costs us a lot of money to shut a store for the day, but it is that important, and we put it off for a little too long. So some of the other things we're planning is to replace our aging cheese cooler. That's the one that has that beautiful little leak coming out from underneath it every time you walk by. And things like that are going on. The list continues. So the bulk room, behind the bulk bins, and we got a lovely picture here, but way down at the end there where the coffee and the tea are, there's windows. Remember when it was a dining room and we had to cover the windows up? Well, those windows were not designed to withstand the attacks of the south wind and the salt and the rain, and now they're leaking. So we are going to have to take them out and replace them with watertight walls. And I'll throw a shout out here. We're having a hard time finding a contractor. If you know of anybody who would love to work with us and we've got the work that needs to be done, send them my way, because right now I don't know when that work's going to happen. But when it's done, before we put things back together again, we're going to try and think about how to better use the bulk room, make it flow better. We're committed to carrying bulk, but we want to make it easier to shop in there. And thanks to all of you who park your shopping carts outside, by the way. I know not everybody can all the time. If you're shopping with your baby, you need to have it in the cart. Totally understandable. If you need the cart for support, totally get it. But the less shopping carts in the bulk room, the better. And I think you might agree with me. It's never easy in there. So those are the things that we'll be working on in terms of making sure we're reinvesting into our business. We have, as you know, filled up the dining room over the past few years with some forward buys. And I think unfortunately, we're going to continue to have to use it for storage. We are working to see if we can be more efficient in there, potentially open up some seats, but I can't promise anything. And I don't see the vendor booth area opening it either. It's just too difficult for us to manage. Our sales have increased so dramatically over the last few years, and that's a great thing. But it does mean there's a lot of people and a lot of product in the store, and we really struggle with that every day. So one of the things we worked on in 2022 was making sure that our staff knew that we loved them. Oh, you got an older picture there. I thought we had gotten some new ones in, but that's okay. Now you remember what our staff looked like when they were all wearing their masks to come to work every day. So things we worked on, I mentioned streamlining the internal employment practices. That's mostly about how we onboard people and then how we track them using informational systems. We gave everyone on staff a 5% raise this year. We continue to work on building our staff, making sure we have people we need to run a strong, healthy store. And we added an assistant store manager position this year. We also hired a new HR manager, facilities, and grocery managers. And at the same time, we had to do a lot of training for our food service team because the new food rules came out well, they came out, I believe, in 2022, but we got them implemented in 2023. Very complex. Sure, it's all great stuff designed to keep us healthy. And it was a huge learning curve for our staff, and we had to change some systems. We also resumed supervisor trainings and in-person meetings. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes, all designed to make a great shopping experience for everybody every time they come into the store. As a result, we did make a profit, which is amazing. And we were able to share that profit with our staff in the fall of 2022. And it was very exciting to be able to do that. And now, moving forward, we're ready to have a staff party, our first one in 4 years. So we will be also closing the store a little early on July 25th, I believe it is. It's a Tuesday. So our staff can go out and have a great party, and nobody has to keep the store running. So we're going to close a little early on that night. So one of the things we're passionate about in a cooperative is the fact that we are a democratically owned and operated organization. And we think cooperation is the way to get things done. And one of the things we've stumbled on was this concept of cooperative dialogue. What does it mean to have a conversation? We know that in our democracy in this country, we often get polarized, but really we are in this together, and we know we agree on more things than we disagree on, but sometimes we lack the skills how to do that. So we thought it would be part of helping strengthen our community if we could bring a facilitator in, whose name is John Simon, to come and share the skill of how to have cooperative conversations. So John will be coming out on late January, and we'll be holding 2 events where he'll be teaching this skill, and then we'll be having some fun conversation. And again, it's about strengthening our democracy. So it's just a piece of the process, but we're hopeful it'll be one that helps us have a stronger, more vibrant country, if not community. So we're going to hold one in Port Townsend and one out of Chimacum, and there won't be any charge for either session. And in between, we'll do some staff training on cooperatives. And at the bottom of this, there's a picture of John and a picture of his book, Grocery Story. It's a great story. If you haven't caught a copy of it, I think they still have some at the library. So the co-op does give away a fair amount of money, and we do a lot of good in the community, and we're really excited about it. So it's a balance, always a balance, right? We've got to have a strong, vibrant organization, and we also want to make sure that our community is strong. So we have 4 pillars of giving. We had to kind of hone it down. It's like, let's just focus on food. Well, that's a little narrow for us. One of the pillars is improving food access. Sustainable ag, land, and sea stewardship is in second one. The third is healthy kids, families, and pets. And the fourth is supporting the cooperative model. So whenever we're approached by an organization, we're going to be looking at how does it fit into our pillars. We've got so many different ways of giving back to the community. Our most popular and the most successful is the one that you probably participate in very often, and that is the beans for the bags at the register. So, it's a win-win, right? We saved something like 234,000 beans last year, and that was $18,000 over almost $19,000 that were donated to local organizations. One of those is always the food bank, and then the others rotate. The community submits recommendations. We have a board committee that looks at all the recommendations and makes a decision. And I know those decisions are tough because I often get to sit in on all those committee meetings. And then we decide who's going to be getting, so we can rotate the love throughout the community. We do invest in many other ways to build a stronger community. One of them also would be this local program and event sponsorship. We're sponsoring, I think Field Day is coming up. And that's one of the ones that we're sponsoring, again, in partnership with the Production Alliance. Of course, we love our local. And I mentioned earlier, we would talk about the Farmers Fund. This is an idea that came out of the pandemic when the farmers were actually being given funds to pass food on to people in the community that were hungry, or groups or organizations that were not getting enough food. And we love that program. And when the funds were not available, we thought, well, we'll try to fill that gap. And we're doing this with money that is collected at the register after, like rounding up at the register. And we're really excited. We're very, very close to having that on the pin pad so that when you're paying at the end of the purchase, you're going to be able to offer those pennies, and it will go to this Farmers Fund. So we've changed a little bit how we're administering the fund, but we see it as grants, basically, that we'll be giving to local farmers to help them strengthen their organization. And again, there's going to be a little committee. We like to have committees looking at asking farmers to submit some their grants, their applications, and then we'll be choosing some lucky recipients, and we're really excited about that. As Julie mentioned, we also collaborated with local vendors to produce our 50th anniversary products. And just as a little side note, a little fun fact is we brought in 14 new local vendors last year. This is always very exciting when we're able to do that. And we're very pleased every time a new vendor joins us. Another way we are supporting our community is investing in the next generation. So this is basically a program where we mentor kids, the food schools, and we help grow school gardens, as it says at the top. This year, Andrea Stafford, our marketing manager, was a mentor at the Fort Townsend High School. She worked with the 9th graders who were charged with creating a new product. I had to have local ingredients in it, and they had to go through the entire process of figuring out what the product was going to be, then designing it, making it, branding it, and selling it. And she had so much fun. So she was really encouraging others to take that on. We also created posters for the cafeterias highlighting their local producers, who happen a lot to be ours as well. And we donated veggie starts to the new Salish Coast production greenhouses. They were getting it got a little too late for them to get planting their own seeds. And here's some local by the numbers. It's just amazing sometimes. You could pick and choose your favorite out of there. There's some amazing numbers of I forget, what was it, the tiramisu we were looking at the other day? Something like 7,000 packages of tiramisu. Actually, don't see that one up there, but 14,000 4-ounce packages of mystery based chef. My favorite is the one with the lemon in it. It is amazing how it really just makes whatever I make that much better. So I'm going to really encourage people to check it out. And of course, not last and not least at all, but thanks to all of our staff for helping us do this every day of the week, 7 days a week, 363 days of the year, unless we close for the parking lot. But we're really excited to have these amazing people on staff. Some of them are new faces to you, and some of them you've known for at least 30 years, and that they're all important. Again, we couldn't do it without them. And so now we're going to get into the numbers. I'm just going to get a quick swig of water. As Jerry mentioned, these are in the annual report, and you can also find them online. And we're here to answer questions about those. Basically, sales tipped over 20 million last year. I'm still kind of floored by that number. I've been doing this work for a long time. That's the most I've ever seen. Pretty amazing. So our cost of goods is the first thing we do. We always pay for those first. And as you can see, the average was for every $1 of the can of beans that we sell at $1, we have to pay 63.4 cents for it. I like to sort of break it down sometimes into those real basic numbers. That leaves us 36.6 cents on every dollar to pay for everything else. Our staff takes the first 24.5 cents. And after that, we have to pay for everything else. So if we're lucky, we might make a penny on every dollar. What happened in 2022 is that we had less staff hours. A lot of staff did get called out by COVID, still struggled with that or other related illnesses. So we were doing pretty well, but then the government had a program called Employee Retention Credits. Sorry, there's so many acronyms out there. And that actually, they ended up giving us 1.5 million. That was amazing, and it's wonderful, and it's unexpected, and it's tucked away for some major project that's going to be coming up, which we're not quite sure what it is yet, but there'll be something. It's an aging piece of property we're sitting on here. So in terms of our profitability, it sure looks good right there. And we were able to declare a dividend based upon the operational income, but we don't include the tax government money from the government in it, tax credits. Your co-op has a very strong balance sheet. That's awesome. That's really how you tell whether or not your organization is going to be here for the future. And I'm pretty fiscally conservative. I really do want us to thrive and survive. So you can see that we are moving forward with this strong balance sheet here with a little over 10 million in assets, 3.5 million in liabilities. Some of that ERC money that we got, we did use to pay off some of our long-term loans. So it has gone to ensure that the building is paid for. We're still paying off the expansion and the equipment that came along with that. Members have invested a fair amount of money over the years, and you can see we got some retained patronage we're holding on to. Again, it's sort of building up those reserves to make sure that we can weather whatever storms are coming down the road, and we don't always know what they are. So you can see a little bit at the bottom how sales have grown from 15.5 million in 2018 to over 20 million in 2022. And at the bottom, you can just see the local farmer purchases of 1.2 million in 2018 to another number, which I actually can't see because there's this bar in the way. I wonder if I can slide it. There we go. 1.423 million in 2022. I'm real. I'm human. I make mistakes. All right. So you can see again here, maybe a little more clearly how sales have increased through the pandemic and how we hit over 20 million here. And you can also see how members' equity is built up during that time as well. And that just again points to this being a very strong, healthy co-op, and we want to keep it that way. Because we did make a profit, we did declare a dividend. The taxable income was 370,000, 371. Some of it came from non-members, and about 85% of all transactions go to members. So this is just a small portion. So the members got the majority of that profit, and 100% of it was declared a dividend, of which 20% is be given out to members right now. And I think you already got an announcement about that. It got sent out earlier this week. It's available to you now at the register. You've got some choices. You can use it at your point of purchase. You are welcome to donate it to our growth fund, or you can, if you prefer, ask for it to come to you as a check, and we'll be happy to do it anyway. And just know that it's your money, and so we're happy to make it work for you. All right, so we're going to be shifting into Q&A, and I believe that I'm going to turn this meeting over to Lisa. I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to leave this slide up. And I'm going to find my mute button. Are you ready, Lisa?
I think so. Okay. So we don't have a lot of questions, but there was some in the signups. So the first one is for the GM, and it's how are co-op products priced? Food companies often price products ending in 99 cents as a psychological method to think you are paying less. Why does the co-op do it? It insults one's intelligence.
Well, that's a good question. And I can guarantee you we don't do it to insult anybody's intelligence, that's for sure. It does make it easier for us. We don't just have 99. We do have other numbers in between. I'm sure if you're in our store, you would notice that there's a wide variety of prices. But it does help us to kind of, we call it rounding. It helps us do our job better. And I'll be honest, there's a couple of extra cents we might pick up on that purchase, and it's going to help us cover what we call shrink. What is shrink? Shrink is a product that we have to throw away, sometimes as simple as produce culls. You know, we're going to buy a head of cauliflower and we got to cut off a bunch of the leaves before we put it out to be bought. That's a cull. Some of the produce doesn't last as long as we want. That's a cull. So we end up having to cull quite a lot, both in the produce department and in food services in preparing food. What else is shrink? Shrink is food we have to give away because it passes its best sell by date or best use by date. And yes, we do give it to the food bank, but that is money that we just didn't get on that purchase. Sometimes we don't do a good job. Sometimes it doesn't sell as well as we want. It's a variety of things. And shrink is also product walking out the door. And I'm going to be honest with you all, there's been a lot more of that happening lately. And I know times are hard. It's really been hard, but it is really frustrating, especially at a co-op. I just find it heartbreaking and hard. Like, stealing from your co-op just seems wrong to me, but it happens. And it happens more often than any of us would like. Sorry about that. That was my phone with a spam call. But yeah, it's kind of shocking how often a product walks out the door. And while we do a great job of trying to get it back, sometimes that doesn't help. We don't want to put our staff at risk either. So I will say this year, the soil amendments, we lost 25% of the soil amendments that were outside. And as a result, we won't be buying any more or selling any more soil amendments. But, you know, again, that's why we round things up, is to cover all the slippage and the spoilage and the spillage and the shoplifting.
Okay. So next question is, you talked about some things that the co-op does to support local farmers. Are there some other ways that you can talk about what the co-op does?
Sure. I love that question. Thank you. I sort of start right at the back of the beginning with seed. So we support and invest in the Organic Seed Alliance, who are growing seed that will, or developing seed that will grow in this microclimate, especially as the climate changes. I think it's really critical that our farmers have access to seeds, open pollinated seeds, that they can use to grow here. And as our weather patterns change, we have to keep developing seed that's going to grow here and grow well here. So we start with seeds. We've been working with the Landworks Collaborative for, well, since before I got here. And that's a group of people, organizations in town like the Land Trust, who are working together to help farmers and producers and growers access land. And sometimes there's that big lift that's needed. They need help bridging the gap financially or access to resources. So we've been doing that. I think Red Dog is probably one of our more successful farms that came as a result of that. And right up to this year, the Kamamoto farm, we were participants in helping that process. Beyond that, well, when we checked in with farmers back when I got here in 2012, what we heard was marketing. So we are a founding member of Eat Local First. We got inspired when somebody came to town and we decided to, she talked about Eat Local First in Whatcom County, and we decided we needed to start our own marketing campaign here for our farmers. And we have been a founding and supportive member ever since the inception of that group. So we're sponsoring the Eat Local First every September. And one of the ones that I'm actually the most proud of is the investment in the farmers market. We really work hard with the farmers market. We see that as a great place for local farms to get going, to find out what it takes to be good vendors, what it is that people want access to. And as the farms grow and their ability grows, then they can transition up to working with the food co-op. And in our food co-op, we have people who are so committed to promoting local. Deb Shortis has been working with us for so long, and that's one of the things she's most passionate about, helping local vendors get it to market. Is not always easy, and it has gotten a lot more difficult over the years. So we're really excited when we can help producers get to that level, and then we can support them in the store. And now we got the Farmers Fund. The list just goes on. There's probably too many of them, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, we're actually officially out of time, but perhaps I can ask one more question so it doesn't.
Sure.
Not cutting it too short. Oh, someone says they would like to thank the staff at the Hot Bar, Diana. By far the best deal in town for grab and go meal that is not all made up with processed foods. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Yes, our staff works really hard. You know, they start at 4 in the morning putting that stuff together, and often they're past closing, wrapping it all up. And it's definitely hard work, but it's good work, and we love feeding our community. So thank you.
Okay, so the questions I have left, let's see what can be answered fairly quickly. This is not a quick one, but I'm gonna do it anyway. How vulnerable is the store to sea level rise climate change? I know that's important to everybody.
It's important. How vulnerable are we? I'm gonna say we're probably pretty vulnerable, quite honestly. I mean, we're only 9.5 feet above sea level. I don't think, even with all the modeling, nobody's exactly sure what's going to happen next. We'll probably only know it when we see it. But it is one of those things that can keep us up at night if we're thinking about it too much. And that's why I talk about stashing some money away, because I think we're going to have to do something. I think our biggest problem right now is that the water doesn't drain off our property as fast as we would like, and that's because it's so flat. So, water wants to go, we'd like it to go downhill. It doesn't, it kind of goes flat across the street, and it just doesn't drain very fast. And the solutions that I've looked at to do that all get super expensive, super fast, complicated. So there, when the rain events come, that's one that worries me because we can't drain the parking lot fast enough, and the store can flood as it did back in June of 2022. Fortunately, it cleaned up pretty fast, but that doesn't always happen. Yeah, it's worrisome, and I don't have a good answer for it. So we'll be working on that one.
Yep, we will. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jury, I think it's you next.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
I'm going to stop
Um,
sharing my screen, or do I leave it up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you could stop sharing actually. Then yeah. Let's see. Yeah, no one has questions. Just kind of a last call. Anybody wanted to speak up? And after that, we'll take a 5-minute break. And if you come up with questions later, I feel like I do that all the time. Like, oh, I had that question. Feel free to email us at the co-op board email address. And we're here. So we'll take a 5-minute break. And I'm now going to formally adjourn this annual meeting of the Food Co-op at 7:25 p.m. And we'll take a 5-minute break. And then we'll be back at like around 7:30. And you'll have a chance to meet our candidates for the board of directors. And we'll have a little interview. So please stay for that. Meet you back in 5. We're back. As I said before, elections for the Food Co-op's board of directors open today, and we have 3 candidates. 2 are running for the 3-year terms and 1 for the 2-year term. Each candidate has to get a majority of yes votes for their seat in order to be elected for the board. If we have your email address, you should have gotten an email today that includes a link to our electronic voting page. If you don't see that email, you can always vote with a paper ballot in the store. Don't forget to seal it in an envelope and include your name, member number, and signature on the outside of the envelope. Remember, only 1 vote per membership. So if you share your member number with others in your household, please make sure that the member whose name is on that count is the one who votes. And what's awesome is that 1 vote equals $1 donated to the food bank. Last year, we were able to donate $600 to the food bank just for voting. You can find the candidate statements and complete vote instructions on the summer issue of the Food Co-op's newsletter around the table, posted in the store and on our website. Now I will turn this over to Owen, and then we'll have the candidates, Cameron, Sasha, and Claire up.
All right, and there we go. Just one slight change here that okay, well, just got confirmation from Claire, so we actually won't have a slight change. first up is Claire Thomas. She had a little difficulty connecting into the meeting, but she's here now. So welcome, Claire. And I guess we're going to spotlight your video if that works.
Hey,
So-
Owen.
Hey, there you are. Great. So I think we can get this so that we're both spotlighted for everyone. I forget what the Zoom button is to do that, but
Yeah, sorry, I'm like not finding Claire on my screen right now for some reason.
well, we can do it this way. So Claire, of course, you've been on the board for 3 years and you're running for another term. And let's just start with the basic question. What made you decide to run again?
Well, sort of what I said in my candidate letter. I feel like, the big thing that we're working right now on is our ends policies and rewriting those ends or thinking about rewriting those ends. So I just kind of felt like we're in the middle of this big project that's kind of important, and I would really like to see it through, to the end. No pun intended. I really truly enjoy being on the food co-op board. I have learned an incredible amount of everything from policy governance and how boards operate or should operate. I think we have an amazingly cohesive and collaborative board. And it's just been a really wonderful educational experience for me as a young professional in our area. So I'm very grateful for its existence and for the opportunity.
Cool. So that kind of leads into one of the questions we got from members to ask our candidates. What unique attributes do you possess that would be most valuable to better further the board's duties?
Yeah, I don't know. I've read this one. I am so bad at questions like this. Like, what is so special about Claire? I am so terrible at these things because I don't know. I mean, unique attributes. I mean, what's unique about me to Port Townsend is I didn't grow up there. In fact, I'm home at my dad's house in South Carolina right now. So maybe I'm coming into some of this process and learning style with a different background. That's helpful, I think. I am a young person and I have a young child. I think that is a unique and helpful perspective to offer, when sharing your voice. I work in HR. That's my profession. And prior to that, I was in sales for a winery. So I sort of agricultural products, sort of. In fact, the co-op carries the wine that I worked for. So there's some of that background, but yeah, I struggled a little bit with this question, weirdly, because it seems like, well, why wouldn't you just be able to answer that? But unique attributes about myself. I feel like I am a collaborative person. I try to give a voice to other people. I try to, give value and input where I feel like it's necessary. And yeah, I don't know. That was a hard one for me, weirdly. But I hope I kind of answered it. I feel like I'm a nice person who works well with others,
Well, that's
I hope my colleagues would say that about me.
No, I didn't mean to hit you with a zinger there. So
Oh, it's okay. You prepped. We were prepped for that question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I will come back with maybe this is an easier one. So you talked about we're revising our 5 ends, and right now there are 5 that may change in the process, although we've been very happy with the 5 that we have. Is there one of them that really stands out to you that is important to you personally or to the store as you?
Yeah. That one, I mean, they're all important because they all guide our general manager, right? So like they're all guiding her, toward the efforts of the store in the long term. So yeah, they're all really important. The one that is probably there, I mean, it's hard to say, like, is there one that stands out as the most important to me? You know, maybe like a little notch above the other ones might be environmental sustainability to me. But then outreach would be a really close second. So I feel like the environmental sustainability one, mostly because I have noticed just from my time of living on the West Coast, the effects of climate change. When I compare what it was like when I moved out west 10 years ago to what we're seeing now, that frightens me more. Like I've just noticed it more. And so it just really feels to me like buying local food and really supporting our local food shed is pretty crucial for the future.
Cool. All right. Well, we don't have time to dive more into that, but I agree with that that concern. So thank you for bringing your perspective to the board, and good luck in the election.
Thanks, Owen.
And all right, so our next candidate is Cameron Jones. And Cameron, are you there?
I am here.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And I'll start with the same question. What made you decide to run for the board?
Well, I mean, I absolutely love the Fort Townsend Food Co-op. I think it was one of the first co-ops I've ever been to in my life. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in a military family, and I think I got my first actual organically grown, locally produced beet that wasn't from a can, and it completely changed my idea of what it was what it was like to eat fresh produce. And so, you know, after moving here in 2013, I just really see how strong of a pillar the co-op is in this community. And just on my own journey, just realizing that the cooperative model is kind of the organizational model that is more viable moving forward into this kind of equitable future that's facing climate change and kind of late stage capitalism. So I feel like it's a great opportunity to learn a lot and to maybe have some kind of impact.
Well, and then, you know, we didn't practice this, but you set me up for a follow-up question, which is one of the ones from our members again. So this is one of the members registering for the meeting asked this to all the candidates. But I'll ask you, what are the challenges we're facing now and in the future, and what should get priority attention and why, according to you?
Well, I think acutely, locally, right now, the biggest challenge is affordable housing. But looking into the future, I think climate change is the kind of umbrella that we're going to have to really prepare ourselves for moving into the future. And I think all the decisions we make as far as food resiliency and as a cooperative is really going to be oriented towards that. Can you repeat the second half of the question, or I believe
it's what should get priority attention and why?
Why? Yeah, so I think climate change is really the focus, the umbrella. And why? Well, to address climate change, I think what we need to do is really be a collaborative organization in this community. And the reason why that is because we can't really do everything on our own. And climate change is going to affect so many different areas of, you know, our life, our being, not just as a food co-op, but as a place where their housing is becoming increasingly expensive. Climate change refugees are coming up. And, you know, we got to be able to support our producers, our growers, and our members. So I'm really, climate change is that big umbrella, and addressing that climate change in an equitable manner that's not going to create this kind of elitist bubble in this one location. But so equity in addressing climate change is kind of the biggest hurdle in the long term that I see.
Cool.
I hope that answers everything.
Yeah, it works for me. And I should remind people that all of our members watching the meeting, if you have questions that you'd like to ask the candidates, you can put those in the chat. But I guess I'm gonna do another one that we did get with the registrations, which is what ideas do you have to make the co-op attractive and affordable for the widest range of people while remaining true to the co-op mission and value-based offerings?
That's a great question, and that's probably the question I spent most time thinking of. I mean, what immediately popped out to me, more kind of acute, low-hanging fruit as far as affordable and attractive. And honestly, in my mind, when I hear attractive, I'm thinking more accessibility. But the low-hanging fruit that I'm thinking of is kind of clear communication on the programs that are already happening with like WIC and especially EBT and the match in the dollar, because I'm an EBT recipient and I didn't know about the dollar match, and that would be a huge kind of boost for me, and I know a lot of other people, because being on EBT, it still doesn't go as far as it does in other groceries, so that match would be a big help. So that would be one thing, just low-hanging fruit there. But long-term, it's cool to see, kind of highlight the different, the beans and programs like JCARF and all these different organizations that are getting money. But I think one of the roles we can play, because we are such a strong pillar in this community, is supporting the other organizations that are doing food equity work like JCARF, like the food bank, which I know there's a lot of produce delivered to the food bank, which I think is really cool. There's also other smaller programs that can be supported, and not just in a donation monetary way, but really establishing like person-to-person connections on a regular basis, not with just the farmers, the producers and the members, but with potential members and organizations doing kind of community resiliency work that is surrounded around food, farming, but just overall access and resiliency in our community. So really strongly supporting those relationships and cultivating those relationships. Even and another funner thing that I imagined with as far as developing those relationships is just hosting more events by the co-op for members and potential members to meet producers and growers, for the board and staff to meet producers and growers, just to kind of start those organic conversations to really, I'm a strong believer in having conversations with people, especially the marginalized community members, to hear what their needs are from them instead of us kind of guessing what those needs might be. And I got last thing I thought about for access and affordability is I think looking internally as an organization to see what we can do as far as culture wise to be more attractive and accessible. So I'm thinking I would love to see a semi-annual like DEI training or a equity kind of audit, just to see where we're at and to make sure that we're doing things and continuing to do things well, that is a really open organization for everybody, because this is a strong employer. It's really one of the most diverse employer pools that I've seen in this location. But how do we make sure that the employees there are feeling comfortable, feeling heard, and how do we continue to grow and expand our base, membership base, in a way that they feel heard and welcome?
Fantastic. Thank you, Cameron. And I think there's a lot of work that the board can dive into in your ideas. So I wish you good luck in the election.
Thank you.
And that brings us to our third candidate, Sasha Kaplan. Sasha, I guess if you unmute yourself, then we can have a conversation.
Yes.
There we are.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So I'll start with the same question. What made you decide to run for the board?
Wow. Well, when I moved to Port Townsend 5.5 years ago, the first thing I did was get a co-op membership and a library card, and then a driver's license. My entire life has been kind of around food, and it's really important to me, both in feeding people, teaching people how to work with food, teaching people how to shop, teaching parents and encouraging parents to take their kids grocery shopping so they know how to shop and what the food looks like. And I just I love food and I love the co-op, and it's a great place to shop. And to me, it's, even though we don't have a formal dining room, it's still a place of community meetup in a way. I remember when the pandemic was going in a big way, and I had just gotten, I think, my first vaccine. And a friend came in and I said, "Did you get your vaccine?" And she said, "Yep." And I said, "Me too. Can we hug?" And it just felt really special that happened in the co-op. It was like, I know I'm a little bit off the question, but yeah, that was a really wonderful moment at the co-op.
And that's great. I think storytelling is such a huge part of connecting with our community. So you've got stories to tell. I'm going to ask one that maybe you've got stories for this. Same one that I asked before. What are the challenges we're facing now and in the future, and what should get priority attention?
Oof. Wow. Well, the parking lot. No, I mean, that's a sort of a joke and sort of a story about getting my car stuck on a big chunk of ice in the parking lot last winter. No, I do worry about the location. I do worry about the location and sea rise. And it really hit me hard when Kenna said, "Oh yeah, we're 9.5 feet above sea level." And I'm like, "Oh, it's that low." Wow. The location concerns me for sure. It's a great building, but as already been said this evening, we've already outgrown the expansion. And that's hard to hear when we're still paying for the expansion. I don't know. I don't know. The physical building is definitely a big piece for me.
That's important, and that's stuff that we need good board members to help guide us on. So I'll ask another one that I asked Claire, and then we've got to move on to finish the meeting, but just one more quick, which is we're revising our ends and preparing to revise our strategic plan. Which of those 5 ends is most important to you? Do you want to?
Could we have a review of the 5 ends?
Well, there's the market relevance about having a strong store. There's supporting our local food system. There's having a thriving workplace. There's promoting and modeling environmental sustainability, and there's outreach and support to our community, including supporting other co-ops.
Wow, they're all important. They're all very important. That's really, it's pretty tough to pick one. Because I could talk about all of those ends. Wow. I mean, I was amazed when I first started doing demos at the store, and Lisa told me how many people worked at the co-op, and I was amazed. So that makes it, to me, a pretty big employer in our city, and I don't know about the county, but certainly within Port Townsend. Strikes me as a great place to work, and I know that people are well taken care of, so that's great.
Right. So that would be thriving workplace, and
Yes.
the board is always looking to see progress and support Kenna in making sure that we have a thriving workplace.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for the candidate interviews, and I know. Thank you, Sasha, and good luck in the election. And I think next we have the exciting door prize. I forget who I hand it off to, but there's Jury.
Yes, hi. And yes, please go vote. Yes, this fabulous door prize. Again, thank you everybody for coming to the Food Co-op's annual meeting and meeting the candidates today. Our last item of business before we announce the winner is a few questions for you to our audience. Sharon, please start the poll, and which I think it appeared on your screen. Your answers to these questions will help us understand what's important to you and how well this online meeting worked for you. So please answer these questions. And while you're answering the poll, Lisa is picking the winner of the basket. I should be quiet.
Okay, while people are doing this, I'm gonna make some noise. So Sasha and I got a little carried away while we were getting the gift basket. And so it's really two gift baskets. There's a slightly smaller one and a slightly bigger bag, literally. And there's a few more things that are shown there. So anyway, we're gonna draw two names. I actually did already draw. I used the random number generator. And so are we ready for me to announce this?
I think so, Lisa.
Okay, so the two winners are Diana, sorry, I'm not, my glasses. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Diana Grunau. And then Teresa Imanishi, which I'm also bad at pronouncing. Terrible with names. So the two bags are at the annex with Sharon. And if you can pick them up sometime, she will have them ready for you. She's there generally between noon and 4:30, Monday through Thursday. Or you can call her to arrange a specific time. And her number is 360-379-5798. So we have a great selection of things, food from our local providers. So hope you will enjoy those.
Thank you. I'm excited. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Awesome. Congratulations,
Oh,
Diana
and
and Teresa.
I sort of have to point out, so these are cool new bags, and this is the blueberry bag. And then back here, you can't see it very well, but it's a banner bag. They made bags out of old banners, so they're recycling the banners, and so they have some print on them. They're pretty cool. So congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Please enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. And with that, I'm gonna stop sharing so that we can maybe go to gallery view and also unmute so that we could at least wave at each other. I know it's not as what is it? There's nothing that could replace in-person meetings, but it's so good to have you all here. We really appreciate you, and we hope to see you at the food co-op.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everybody.